got stuck a bit.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I've started the recording also. We can start.
Okay, fine. So we'll start with chapter 8 today, Man in the Car Paradox. Right? I'll read and maybe someone else can join later. Yeah. No one is impressed with your positions as much as you are. The best part of being a valet is getting to drive some of the coolest cars to ever touch pavement. Guests came in driving Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Rolls-Royce, the whole aristocratic fleet. It was my dream to have one of these cars of my own because I thought they sent such a strong signal to others that you made it. You are smart, you are rich, you have taste, you are important. Look at me. The irony is that I rarely, if ever, looked at them, the drivers. When you see someone driving a nice car, you rarely think, wow, the guy driving the car is cool. Instead, you think, wow, if I had that car, people would think I'm cool. Subconscious or not, this is how people think. There is a paradox here. People tend to want wealth to signal to others that they should be liked and admired. But in reality, those other people often bypass admiring you, not because they don't think wealth is admirable, but because they use your wealth as a benchmark for their own desire to be liked and admired. The letter I wrote after my son was born said, "You might think you want an expensive car, a fancy watch, and a huge house, but I'm telling you, you don't. What you want is respect and admiration from other people, and you think having expensive stuff will bring it. It almost never does, especially from the people you want to respect and admire you." I learned that as a valet when I began thinking about all the people driving up to the hotel in their Ferraris watching me gawk. People must gawk everywhere they went, and I'm sure they loved it. I'm sure they felt admired. But did they know I did not care about them or even notice them? Did they know I was only gawking at the car and imagining myself in the driver's seat? Did they buy a Ferrari thinking it would bring them admiration without realizing that I, and likely most others who are impressed with the car, didn't actually give them, the driver, a moment's thought? Does this same idea apply to those living in big homes? Almost certainly. Jewelry and clothes? Yep. My point here is not to abandon the pursuit of wealth or even fancy cars. I like both. It's a subtle recognition that people generally aspire to be respected and admired by others, and using money to buy fancy things may bring less of it than you have imagined. If respect and admiration are your goal, be careful how you seek it. Humility, kindness, and empathy will bring you more respect than horsepower ever will. We are not done talking about Ferraris. Another story about the paradox of fast cars in the next chapter. So anyone would like to take up chapter 9, Wealth is What You Don't See?
Oh, wow, that was super short.
Yeah, it was like the car just zoomed past us. Yeah. Anyone would like to read?
Can I?
Yeah, please.
Okay. This is my first chapter I'm reading with all of you. Ninth, wealth is what you don't see. Spending money to show people how much money you have is the fastest way to have less money. Money has many ironies. Here's an important one. Wealth is what you don't see. My time as a wallet was in mid 2000s in Los Angeles when material appearance took precedence over everything but oxygen. If you see a Ferrari driving around, you might intuitively assume that the owner of the car is rich, even if you're not paying much attention to them. But as I got to know some of these people, I've realized that wasn't always the case. Many were mediocre successes, who spent a huge percentage of their paycheck on a car. I remember a fellow we'll call Roger. He was about my age. I had no idea what Roger did, but he drove a Porsche, which was enough for people to draw assumptions. Then one day, Roger arrived in an old Honda. Seen the next week and the next. What happened to your Porsche? I asked. It was repossessed after defaulting on his car loan, he said. There was not a morsel of shame. He responded like he was telling the next play in the game. Every assumption you might have about him was wrong. Los Angeles is full of Rogers. Someone driving a $1 lakh car might be wealthy, but the only data point you have about their wealth is that they have 1 lakh less than they did before they bought the car, or 1 lakh more in debt. That's all you know about them. We tend to judge wealth by what you see because that's the information we have in front of us. We can't see people's bank account or brokerage statement. So we rely on outward appearances to gauge financial success. Cars, homes, Instagram, photos. Modern capitalism makes helping people fake it until they make it a cherished industry. But the truth is that wealth is what you don't see. Wealth is the nice cars not purchased, the diamonds not bought, the watches not worn, the clothes forgone, and the first class upgrade declined. Wealth is financial assets that haven't been converted into the stuff you see. That's not how we think about wealth, but you can't contextualize what you can't see. Singer Rihanna nearly went bankrupt after overspending and sued her financial advisor. The advisor responded, was it really necessary to tell her that if you spend money on things, you will end up with the things and not the money? You can laugh and please do. But the answer is yes. People do need to be told that when most people say they want to be a millionaire, what they might actually mean is, I'd like to spend $1 million. So true. And that is literally the opposite of being a millionaire. Investor Bill Mann once wrote, there is no faster way to feel rich than to spend lots of money on really nice things. But the way to be rich is to spend money you have and not to spend money you don't have. It's really that simple. It's an excellent advice, but it may not go far enough. The only way to be wealthy is not to spend the money you do have. It's not the way you, it's the only way to accumulate wealth is definition of wealth. I'll read that again. It is excellent advice, but it may not go far enough. The only way to be wealthy is to not spend the money that you do have. It's not the only way to accumulate wealth. It's the very definition of wealth. We should be careful to define the difference between wealthy and rich. It's more than semantics. Uh, Not knowing the difference is a source of countless poor money decisions. Rich is current income. Someone driving a $1 lakh car is almost certainly rich because if it is purchased, even if they purchase the car with debt, you need a certain level of income to afford the monthly payment. Same with those who live in big homes. It's not hard to spot rich people. They often go out their way to make themselves known. but wealthier, but wealth is hidden. It's income not spent. Wealth is an option, not yet taken to buy something later. Its value lies in offering you options, flexibility, and growth to one day purchase more stuff than what you could right now. Diet and exercise offer a useful analogy. Losing weight is notoriously hard, even among those putting in the work of vigorous exercise. In this book, the body Bill Bryson explains why. One study in America found that people overestimate the number of calories they burn in a workout by a factor of 4. They also then consumed on average about twice as many calories as they had burned off. The fact is, you can quickly undo a lot of exercise by eating a lot of food, and most of us do. Exercise is like being rich. You think, I did the work and now I deserve to treat myself to a big meal. Wealth is turning down that treat meal and actually burning net calories. It's hard and requires self control, but it creates a gap between what you could do and what you choose to do that accrues you over time. The problem for many of us is that it is easy to find rich role models. It's harder to find wealthy ones because, by definition, their success is more hidden. There are, of course, wealthy people who also spend a lot of money on stuff. But even in those cases, what we see is their richness, not their wealth. We see the cars they choose to buy and perhaps the school they choose to send their kids to. We don't see the savings, retirement accounts, or investment portfolios. We see the homes they bought, not the homes they could have bought. They have stretched themselves thin. Anybody would like to take over?
I can.
Yeah, I will take over from here. The danger. Shall I continue, Mansi? Mani Selvi?
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Please continue.
The danger here is that I think most people deep down want to be wealthy. They want freedom and flexibility, which is what financial assets not yet spent can give you. But it is so ingrained in us that to have money is to spend money, that we don't get to see the restraint it takes to actually be wealthy. And since we can't see it, it is hard to learn about it. People are good at learning by imitation, but the hidden nature of wealth makes it hard to imitate others and learn from their ways. After he died, Ronald Reid became many people's financial role model. He was lionized in the media and cherished on social media, but he was nobody's financial role model while he was living because every penny of his wealth was hidden, even to those who knew him. Imagine how hard it would be to learn how to write if you could not read the works of great authors. Who would be your inspiration? Who would you admire? Whose nuanced tricks and tips would you follow? It would make something that is already hard even harder. It is difficult to learn from what you can't see, which helps explain why it is so hard for many to build wealth. The world is filled with people who look modest but are actually wealthy, and people who look rich who live at the razor's edge of insolvency. Keep this in mind when quickly judging others' success and setting your own goals. If wealth is what you don't spend, what good is it? Well, let me convince you to save money. Save money, the only factor you can control, generates one of the only things that matters. How wonderful. Let me convince you to save money. It won't take long, but it is an odd task, is not it? Do people need to be convinced to save money? My observation is that yes, many do. Past a certain level of income, people fall into three groups: those who save, those who don't think they can save, and those who don't think they need to save. This is for the later two. The first idea, simple but easy to overlook, is that building wealth has little to do with your income or investment returns and loads to do with your savings rate. A quick story about the power of efficiency. In the 1970s, the world looked like it was running out of oil. The calculation was not hard. The global economy used a lot of oil. The global economy was growing, and the amount of oil we could drill could not keep up. We did not run out of oil, thank goodness. But that was not just because we found more oil or even got better at taking it out of the ground. The biggest reason we overcame the oil crisis is because we started building cars, factories, and homes that are more energy efficient than they used to be. The United States uses 60% less energy per dollar of GDP today than it did in 1950. The average miles per gallon of all vehicles on the road has doubled since 1975. A 1989 Ford Taurus sedan averaged 18.0 mpg. A 2009 Chevy Suburban absurdly large SUV averages 18.1 mpg. The world grew its energy wealth not by increasing the energy it had, but by decreasing the energy it needed. US oil and gas production has increased 65% since 1975, while conservation and efficiency has more than doubled what we can do with that energy. So it is easy to see which has mattered more. The important thing here is that finding more energy is largely out of our control and shrouded in uncertainty because it relies on a slippery mix of having the right geology, geography, weather, and geopolitics. But becoming more efficient with the energy we use is largely in our control. The decision to buy a lighter car or ride a bike is up to you and has a 100% chance of improving efficiency. The same is true with our money. Investment returns can make you rich, but whether an investing strategy will work and how long it will work for, and whether markets will cooperate is always in doubt. Results are shrouded in uncertainty. Personal savings and frugality, finance, conservation, and efficiency are parts of the money equation that are more in your control and have a 100% chance of being as effective in the future as they are today. If you view building wealth as something that will require more money or big investment returns, you may become as pessimistic as the energy uh, doomers were in 1970s. The path forward looks hard and out of your control. If you view it as powered by your own frugality and efficiency, the destiny is clearer. Wealth is just the accumulated leftovers after you spend what you take in. And since you can build wealth without a high income, but have no chance of building wealth without a high savings rate, it is clear which one matters more. Can somebody take over from here?
I can.
Thank you.
More importantly, the value of wealth is relative to what you need. Say, you and I have the same net worth, and say you're a better investor than me. I can earn 8% annual return and you can earn 12% annual return. But I'm more efficient with my money. Let us say I need half as much money to be happy while your lifestyle compounds as fast as your assets. I'm better off than you are, despite being a worse investor. I'm getting more benefit from my investments despite lower returns. The same is true for incomes. Learning to be happy with less money creates a gap between what you have and what you want, similar to the gap you get from growing your paycheck, but easier and more in your control. A high savings rate means having lower expenses than you otherwise could. And having lower expenses means your savings go farther than they would if you spent more. Think about this in the context of how much time and effort goes into achieving 0.1% of out annual investment outperformance. Millions of hours of research, tens of billions of dollars of effort from professionals, and it is easy to see what is potentially more important or worth chasing. There are professional investors who grind 80 hours a week to add a tenth of a percentage point to their returns when there are 2 or 3 full percentage points of lifestyle bloat in their finances that can be exploited with less effort. Big investment returns and fat paychecks are amazing when they can be achieved, and some can achieve them. But the fact is that there is so much effort put into one side of the finance equation and so little put into the other is an opportunity for most people. Past a certain level of income, what you need is just what sits below your ego. Everyone needs the basic. Once they are covered, there is another level of comfortable basics, and past that, there is basics that are both comfortable, entertaining, and enlightening. But spending beyond a pretty low level of materialism is mostly a reflection of ego approaching income, a way to spend money to show people that you have or had money. Think of it like this. And one of the most powerful ways to increase your savings isn't to raise your income, it is to raise your humility. When you define savings as the gap between your ego and your income, when you define savings as the gap between your ego and your income, you realize why many people with decent income save so little. It is a daily struggle against instincts to extend your peacock feathers to their outermost limits and keep up with others doing the same. People with enduring personal finance success, not necessarily those with high incomes, tend to have a propensity to not give a damn what others think about them. So, people's ability to save is more in their control than they might think. Savings can be created by spending less. You can spend less if you desire less, and you will desire less if you care less about what others think of you. As I argue often in this book, money relies more on psychology than finance. And you don't need a specific reason to save. Some people save money for a down payment on a house or a new car or for retirement. That is great, of course. But saving does not require a goal of purchasing something specific. You can save just for saving's sake. And indeed, you should. Everyone should. Only saving for a specific goal makes sense in a predictable world. But ours isn't. Saving is a hedge against life's inevitable ability to surprise the hell out of you at the worst possible moment. Another benefit of saving that isn't attached to a spending goal is what we discussed in chapter 7, that is, gaining control over your time. Everyone knows the tangible stuff money buys. The intangible stuff is harder to wrap your head around, so it tends to go unnoticed. But the intangible benefits of money can be far more valuable and capable of increasing your happiness than the tangible things that are obvious targets of our savings. Savings without a spending goal gives you options and flexibility, the ability to wait and the opportunity to pounce. It gives you the time to think. It lets you change course on your own terms. Every bit of saving is like taking a point in the future that would have been owned by someone else and giving it back to yourself. That flexibility and control over your time is an unseen return on wealth. What is the what is a return on cash in the bank that gives you the option of changing careers or retiring early or freedom from worry? I would say it is incalculable. It is incalculable in two ways. It is so large and important that we can't put a price on it. But it is also literally incalculable. We can't measure it. We can't measure it like we can measure interest rates, and what we can't measure, we tend to overlook. When you don't have control over your time, you are forced to accept whatever bad luck is thrown your way. But if you have But if you have flexibility, you have the time to wait for no brainer opportunities to fall in your lap. This is a hidden return on your savings. Savings in the bank that earn 0% interest might actually generate an extraordinary return if they give you the flexibility to take a job with a lower salary but more purpose, or wait for an investment opportunity that come when those without flexibility turn desperate. And that hidden return is becoming more important. So the world used to be hyper local. Just over 100 years ago, 75% of Americans had neither telephones nor regular mail service, according to historian Robert Gordon. That made competition hyper local. A worker with just average intelligence might be the best in their town, and they got treated like the best because they didn't have to compete with the smarter worker in another town. That is now changed. A hyper connected world means the talent pool you compete in has gone from hundreds or thousands spanning your town to millions or billions spanning the globe. This is especially true for jobs that rely on working with your head versus your muscles. Teaching, marketing, analysis, consulting, accounting, programming, journalism, and even medicine increasingly compete in global talent pools. More fields will fall into this category as digitization erases global boundaries, as software eats the world, as venture capitalist Mark Andreessen puts it. A question you should ask as the range of your competition expands is, how do I stand out? I'm smart is increasingly a bad answer to that question, because there are a lot of smart people in the world. Almost 600 people ace the SATs each year. Another 7,000 come within a handful of points. In a winner take all and globalized world, these kinds of people are increasingly your direct competitors. Intelligence is not a reliable advantage in a world that has become as connected as ours has, but flexibility is. In a world where intelligence is hyper competitive and many previous technical skills have become automated, competitive advantages tilt towards nuanced and soft skills like communication, empathy, and perhaps most of all, flexibility. If you have flexibility, you can wait for good opportunities, both in your career and for your investment. You will have a better chance of being able to learn a new skill when it is necessary. You will feel less urgency to chase competitors who can do things you can't, and have more leeway to find your passion and your niche at your own pace. You can find a new routine, a slower pace, and think about life with a different set of assumptions. The ability to do those things when most others can't is one of the few things that will set you apart in a world where intelligence is no longer a sustainable advantage. Having more control over your time and options is becoming one of the most valuable currencies in the world. That is why more people can and more people should save money. You know what else they should do? Stop trying to be so rational. Let me tell you why. Yeah. Should anyone take it? Willing to read? Anyone is willing to read? Hello? Are we stopping here or?
No, I'll read from here, Padma. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. So since we have time, we'll just move on to the next chapter also. Chapter 11, Reasonable Rational. Aiming to be mostly reasonable works better than trying to be coldly rational. You are not a spreadsheet. You are a person, a screwed up emotional person. It took me a while to figure this out, but once it clicked, I realized it's one of the most important parts of finance. With it comes something that's often goes overlooked. Do not aim to be coldly rational when making financial decisions. Aim to just be pretty reasonable. Reasonable is more realistic and you have a better chance of sticking with it for the long run, which is what matters most when managing money. To show you what I mean, let me tell you the story of a guy who tried to cure syphilis with malaria. Julius Wagner Jauregg was a 19th century psychiatrist with two unique skills. He was good at recognizing patterns, and what others saw as crazy, he found merely bold. His specialty was patients with severe neurosyphilis, then a fatal diagnosis with no known treatment. He began noticing a pattern. Syphilis patients tend to recover if they had the added misfortune of having prolonged fevers from an unrelated ailment. Wagner Jauregg assumed this was due to a hunch that had been around for centuries, but doctors didn't understand well. Fevers play a role in helping the body fight infection. So he jumped to the logical conclusion. In the early 1900s, Wagner Jauregg began injecting patients with low-end strains of typhoid, malaria, and smallpox to trigger fevers strong enough to kill off their syphilis. This was as dangerous as it sounds. Some of his patients died from the treatment. He eventually settled on a weak version of malaria since it could be effectively countered with quinine after a few days of bone-rattling fevers. After some tragic trial and errors, his experiment worked. Wagner Jauregg reported that 6 in 10 syphilis patients treated with malariotherapy recovered, compared to around 3 in 10 patients left alone. He won the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 1927. The organization today notes the main work that concerned Wagner Jauregg throughout his working life was the endeavor to cure mental disease by inducing a fever. Penicillin eventually made malariotherapy for syphilis patients obsolete. Thank goodness. But Wagner Jauregg is one of the only doctors in history who not only recognized fever's role in fighting infection but also prescribed it as a treatment. Fevers have always been as feared as they are mysterious. Ancient Romans worshipped Febris, the goddess who protected people from fevers. Amulets were left at temples to placate her, hoping to stave off the next round of shivers. But Wagner Jauregg was onto something. Fevers are not accidental nuances. They do play a role in the body's road to recovery. We now have better, more scientific evidence of fever's usefulness in fighting infection. A 1 degree increase in body temperature has been shown to slow the replication rate of some viruses by a factor of 200. Numerous investigators have identified a better outcome among patients who displayed fever. One NIH paper writes, the Seattle Children's Hospital includes a section on its website to educate parents who may panic at the slightest rise in their child's temperature. Fevers turn on the body's immune system. They help the body fight infection. Normal fevers between 100 degrees and 104 degrees Fahrenheit are good for sick children. But that's where the science ends and reality takes over. Fever is almost universally seen as a bad thing. They are treated with drugs like Tylenol to reduce them as quickly as they appear. Despite millions of years of evolution, as a defense mechanism, no parent, no patient, few doctors, and certainly no drug company views fever as anything but a misfortune that should be eliminated. These views do not match the known science. One study was blunt. Treatment of fever is common in the ICU setting and likely related to standard dogma rather than evidence-based practice. Howard Markel, director of the Center for the History of Medicines, once said of fever phobia, these are cultural practices that spread just as widely as the infectious disease that are behind them. Why does this happen? If fevers are beneficial, why do we fight them so universally? I don't think it's complicated. Fevers hurt and people don't want to hurt. That's it. A doctor's goal is not just to cure disease, it's to cure disease within the confines of what's reasonable and tolerable to the patient. Fevers can have marginal benefits in fighting infection, but they hurt. And I go to the doctor to stop hurting. I don't care about double-blind studies when I'm shivering under a blanket. If you have a pill that can make a fever stop, give it to me now. It may be rational to want a fever if you have an infection, but it's not reasonable. That philosophy, aiming to be reasonable instead of rational, is one more people should consider when making decisions with their money. Academic finance is devoted to finding the mathematically optimal investment strategies. My own theory is that in the real world, people do not want the mathematically optimal strategy. They want the strategy that maximizes for how well they sleep at night. Harry Markowitz won the Nobel Prize for exploring the mathematical trade-off between risk and return. He was once asked how he invested his own money and described his portfolio allocation in the 1950s when his models were first developed. I visualized my grief if the stock market went way up and I wasn't in it, or if it went way down and I was completely in it. My intention was to minimize my future regret, so I split my contribution 50-50 between bonds and equities. Markowitz eventually changed his investment strategy, diversifying the mix. But two things here are important. One is that minimizing future regret is hard to rationalize on paper, but easy to justify in life. A rational investor makes decisions based on numeric facts. A reasonable investor makes them in a conference room surrounded by co-workers who want to think highly of you, with a spouse you don't want to let down, or judged against the silly but realistic competitors that are your brother-in-law, your neighbor, and your own personal doubts. Investing has a social component that's often ignored when viewed through a strictly financial lens. The second is that this is fine. Jason Zwick, who conducted the interview when Markowitz described how he invested, later reflected, "My own view is that people are neither rational nor irrational. We are human. We don't like to think harder than we need to, and we have unceasing demands on our attention." Seen in that light, there's nothing surprising about the fact that the pioneer of modern portfolio theory built his initial portfolio with so little regard for his own research. Nor is it surprising that he adjusted it later. Markowitz is neither rational or irrational. He is reasonable. What's often overlooked in finance is that something can be technically true but contextually nonsense. In 2008, a pair of researchers from Yale published a study arguing young savers should supercharge their retirement accounts using 2-to-1 margin, $2 of debt for every dollar of their own money. When buying stocks, it suggests investors taper that leverage as they age, which lets a saver take more risk when they are young and can handle a magnified market roller coaster, and less when they are older. Even if using leverage left you wiped out when you were young, if you use 2-to-1 margin, a 50% market drop leaves you with nothing. The researchers showed savers would still be better off in the long run, so long as they picked themselves back up, followed the plan, and kept saving in a 2-to-1 leveraged account the day after being wiped out. The math works on paper, it's a rational strategy, but it's almost absurdly unreasonable. No normal person could watch 100% of their retirement account evaporate and be so unfazed that they carry on with the strategy undeterred. They would quit, look for a different option, and perhaps sue their financial advisor. The researchers argued that when using their strategy, the expected retirement wealth is 90% higher compared to life cycle funds. It is also 100% less reasonable. There is, in fact, a rational reason to favor what look like irrational decisions. Here's one. Let me suggest that you love your investments. This is not traditional advice. It's almost a badge of honor for investors to claim they are emotionless about their investments because it seems rational. But if lacking emotion about your strategy or the stocks you own increases the odds you will walk away from them when they become difficult. What looks like rational thinking becomes a liability. The reasonable investor who love their technically imperfect strategy have an edge because they are more likely to stick with those strategies. There are few financial variables most correlated to performance than commitment to a strategy during its lean years, both the amount of performance and the odds of capturing it over a given period of time. The historical odds of money making in US markets are 50-50 over 1 day period, 68% in 1 year's period, 88% in 10 years periods. And so far, 100% in 20 years period. Anything that keeps you in the game has a quantifiable advantage. If you view do what you love as a guide to a happier life, it sounds like empty fortune cookie advice. If you view it as the thing providing the endurance necessary to put the quantifiable odds of success in your favor, you realize it should be the most important part of your financial strategy. Investing in a promising company you don't care about, and you might enjoy it when everything's going well. But when the tide inevitably turns, you are suddenly losing money on something you are not interested in. It's a double burden. And the path of least resistance is to move onto something else. If you are passionate about the company to begin with, you love the mission, the product, the team, the science, whatever. The inevitable downtimes when you are losing money or the company needs help are blunted by the fact that at least you feel like you are part of something meaningful. That can be the necessary motivation that prevents you from giving up and moving on. There are several other times when it's fine to be reasonable instead of rational with money. There's a well documented home bias where people prefer to invest in companies from the country they live in while ignoring the other 95% of the planet. It's not rational until you consider the investing is effectively giving money to strangers. If familiarity helps you take the leap of faith required to remain backing those strangers, it's reasonable. Day trading and picking individual stocks is not rational for most investors. The odds are heavily against your success, but they are both reasonable in small amounts if they scratch and itch hard enough to leave the rest of your more diversified investments alone. Investor Josh Brown, who advocates and mostly owns diversified funds, once explained why he also owns a smattering of individual stocks. I'm not buying individual stocks because I think I'm going to generate alpha outperformance. I just love stocks and have ever since I was 20 years old. And it's my money. I get to do whatever. Quite reasonable. Most forecasts about where the economy and the stock market are heading next are terrible, but making forecasts is reasonable. It's hard to wake up in the morning telling yourself you have no clue what the future holds, even if it's true. Acting on investment forecasts is dangerous, but I get why people try to predict what will happen next year. It's human nature, it's reasonable. Jack Bogle, the late founder of Vanguard, spent his career on a crusade to promote low-cost passive index investing. Many thought it interesting that his son found a career as an active, high-fee hedge fund and mutual fund manager. Bogle, the man who said high-fee funds violate the humble rules of arithmetic, invested some of his own money in his son's funds. What's the explanation? We do some things for family reasons, Bogle told the Wall Street Journal. If it's not consistent, well, life isn't always consistent. Indeed, it rarely is. Yeah, so I think we have to hold the surprise for tomorrow. Yeah, as we conclude our reading today. So let's just go back, think about what we read and what stood out, what things were actually holding your interest and focus. Yeah, we can discuss.
I love the way where author says wealth is not what you see, it is on the unseen. And the example and paraphrases he added, that was a mind-boggling thing. With the Roger example he used in the Los Angeles, that was amazing. And how to invest in a company where you don't look it after. That was amazing. So it was very insightful. Thank you so much, Mansi, for conducting these kind of sessions. I hardly get time, but yes, whenever I am, and I never love to miss this sessions. Thank you. And Mani Selvi, I love your voice, the way you read it, the way you present it. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to hear from you.
Thank you, Binal, for
Yeah.
your points. Yeah. Anyone
I
else?
just want to say thank you to Mani Selvi who's taking the lead and keeping it going for now. So she's been like doing like 3 books. Like this is the third book that she's leading. So all thanks to her actually. So yeah. And the way she actually treats, like sometimes the way insights and everything that she brings in, they are mind blowing actually. If anyone of you have got the opportunity to experience it, you would know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks to
Yes,
her.
yes,
And
very
for
much
me,
inspiring. I will also add this, like I've always been adoring the way she explains, like I'm also
yeah.
really inspired by her. I also want to
And
add on
the
to
way
that.
she helps us take things deeper, right? She don't leave it to the surface. So that's the way she
Absolutely.
facilitates us to go and think deeper. That's amazing. So yeah. Also for me today, what highlighted for me, same as Beenal, how the author has described the difference between wealth and riches, and how we think so many things are just an assumption, but they are not the truth. So that was something that stood out for me too. And even the last part, what we just read about, what was it? I just got confused now. So can you just name the chapter? So that was something that also caught my attention.
Reasonable versus rational.
Yeah, reasonable versus,
Save
yeah,
money.
that's, and how we actually are more human, and actually we need those kind of decisions. It's not like the way he said, right? Like we are not the spreadsheets. So although everything might look good on paper, but actually as humans, our decisions are more emotional driven and emotion centric. So how we actually tend to uh, take things that way and benefit through that decision. So that is something that was alarming, like alarming not, but I would say that that was something that was an eye opener for me. So yeah, that's from my end.
And for me, added to all what you said, what resonates me is, resonates with me is the real respect. It comes from the character, like what you are inside, the way you are kind to people, how honest you are, that humility and all that is more important than what you hold as a possession, like having a Lamborghini and all those expensive cars, that is a real, that resonated with me so very well. And that's the real respect isn't bought and it is earned. That's where I really want to uh, you know deeply reflect and
Yes,
add it to
one more
other things.
addition. Yeah, yeah, go on, sorry,
Yeah,
please,
yeah, yeah,
please.
not at all, not at all. The same thing I
No, you
just said.
finished what you're saying, like, please
Pardon me.
you finish what you wanted
Yeah,
to
yeah,
say.
yeah. The next is again, wealth is what you literally, it is not what you don't see. It's like wealth is what you don't see. So what they're trying to say is true wealth is invisible. This is where I really want to resonate here. Reflect on this, thinking that the money is quietly saved. You have to do it in a very quietly, in a subtle way, where the real wealth or the money that you save, it has to help you. It has to give you the freedom, and uh, the habit of saving. That builds, that should give you the independence, and it gives you uh, an ability to take charge of your life. So this is also what uh, I thought I can share here. This also a takeaway for me. Yes, you can continue that.
Yes, yes. So he's linked that with the earlier part of the book where he describes this rich. He says na that guy's story where he discloses how when he died he had so much more wealth, and
Mm.
comparing to it to the other guy who was very wealthy, who seemed very wealthy, and who spent a lot of money and all of that, and versus how he ended. So that's a reference that is given. So that I think that I got reminded of that during this chapter today. And just one more thing I just wanted to add. I'm currently reading this other book called Learning to Fly, or some name like that, by Abdul Kalam. And in that there are beautiful speeches by Abdul Kalam sir to youths of different colleges and all. So in that also na, the way it reflects his intelligence, it reflects his way of thinking, and so many beautiful things. It's such a beautiful read. So in that also, today morning only, me and my husband, we were discussing something, and we were just talking about, and he just told me that when Abdul Kalam ji also, when he passed away, and there was when it was like investigated in his house and all of that, it was only books and so many things that were found. But so maybe whatever money he earned and all, he actually lived that way, and he just donated it. And there's so many, like he's such a pure soul. So I was just thinking of that as we were reading this, like compared to wealth, and even there is this other book called Five Types of Wealth, right? So wealth is so much more than just money. And and there are examples, real life examples, whom we can look up to, who had lived that way, who are very much wealthy, uh, but money did not really matter to them as such. But still they made such a difference and so many things. So I'm actually short of words, but I was just trying to reflect on that, like a life like that, and how would I want to live, kind of a thing. So yeah.
Yeah, for me too, the aspect of saving was something that made sense, that it's not just earning and saving when you need to, but it is a habit that needs to be inculcated. The other thing was that how you define wealth. And for me, I think if I were to take this, but I like that example wherein wealth means how much freedom you have to do things other than the basic needs, maybe travel, whatever your passion are. So if you have that freedom, that means that you have that wealth. It's not essentially just the money aspect of it. So this is what resonated with me. And the fact that uh, one has to be balanced in the kind of approach, the uh, relatability and reasonability aspect of it. Rationality and reasonable. So reasonable for me means that one has to be balanced and pragmatic about the way you're looking at things, not just being totally pragmatic or totally practical. So yeah, these are the three things that held me for me.
Yeah, a lot of shares today. Quite interesting chapters. Yeah, anybody else want to share? Pravina, you want to share something?
Yeah, but it is almost covered, money. I just wanted to add one thing.
Yeah.
Is that this chapter is more of a reassurance of what I was actually believing. Is the when this chapter starts with the respect and admiration, we always look up to people who are more wealthy, but it reassures that it is about humanity, kind, and empathy. And the true wealth is about flexibility, control over time, and the basic character that we actually have. This is something, it kind of reassures my belief system. And the overall chapter is just look upon on how truly wealthy you can be right now. You can start right now and be wealthy about it as well. So yeah, that is my takeaway. And on upon the I didn't share any of it, but this session and the way you are conducting is awesome. And I would like to have more of insights on your book, as well as on how I mean I'm happy to go on, order the book and read about it, but it would be great if we can have a session on how personally it would impact on the other people as well as everybody's inside, so that we know each other a lot, as same as build a kind of a bond over a community. So yeah, that would be my just a suggestion on that. Looking forward. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Pravina. So about the book, yeah, we'll maybe have a separate discussion on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, that's a great suggestion. We'll take it into consideration. Also, Maniselvi, just one more thing I just wanted to tell you. If someone can just take the notes of reading today, because I just got disconnected in the middle, because of which the AI is not giving me notes now. Maybe discussion part I can take, hopefully, because I am there throughout. But the reading part, it's not giving me. So you'll have to take it for the reading part today. So just wanted to let you know that.
okay, I'll do that. Yeah. So yeah, thank you all for the reading, the appreciation, and also about the comments for the books, because I feel it was a good read today. Everybody got into the subject matter and could see, a lot of illusions being broken today, especially the first chapter. where you can see, you know, normally how status symbol is given more preference, and we go into the comparison trap, and we actually seem to value the you know, what lifestyle people are representing rather than the person itself. And as we have understood that, you know, the personality or the person is more important because of the behavior that he showcases. So behavior over appearance is what this book asks us to look into. And when it comes to financial decisions, yes, personal freedom has to been given priority along with the long-term goals. Like instead of going into the comparison trap and, you know, just going about with the possessions of things and things, it is better that we spend wisely. And when we spend wisely, we understand that you know, because you know, it automatically takes control of two things. If there is any uncertainty in terms of spending and in uncertainty of income, both things it can counter. So chapter 10 taught about saving money, which is, I think, most of us as Indians, we are tend to do. But yes, the mode of investments and mode of savings might differ. We have to see whether, you know, that is empowering or somewhere that is a hamper. Say in South India, we see a lot of investments going into gold. So not sure how much of it actually will help you in terms of financial things. But yes, it has a very cultural impact, as well as it's a great status symbol here. And so it is very important. Wealth is what you don't see was something as a powerful understanding that came through, because normally we do a comparison and we do a evaluation based on what we can see. But if you can't see anything, how are you going to learn about it or even try and understand it? So it was a moment where we have to understand what is our perception versus what is the reality, and also that how patience and compounding in the background will help you, you know, to garner the wealth that you actually should have for your future security. I think the example where it was, you know, spending is compared to, you know, eating after a good workout, it was very, very effective example. And yes, as you know, Abdul Kalam ji is very, you know, his success is well known, but the modesty of such people, you know, if you see, many people in history have been modest, yet, you know, they have this kind of, they don't have hidden wealth, but they do have so much of respect that they have earned over their lifetime. So true wealth is somewhere that unglamorous part of it, which seems to be personal. It's a personal choice, and it is invisible also to some extent, I feel. And sometimes the society or the you know, the way we function today is somewhere misleading us, and it is taking us far from our freedom, because they hold our attention, and we don't tend to have the enough saving attitude now. We only seem to be more into a pursuit of things. So psychology is what matters, is I think the crux of the entire discussion that we are having here. So how do we actually understand our own psychology is, again, the chapter 11 brought out a main thing is, let us be reasonable, not perfect. So in terms of perfection, as far as finance is concerned, or anything for that matter, we always try to quantify things, but there are things beyond quantification. That is what they said, you know. Incalculable is a new word which I learned today, which is there in the book. And it is important that we also commit to a path. So having a steady investment path in spite of, you know, ups and downs, having the commitment is at times important. Yet the flexibility, you know, as the financial markets are unpredictable, so you'll have to have also flexibility. But yet, you know, the emotion factor is always coming up. and you have to understand that emotions will make a intervene in the decision making, but maybe you can distance it and then try to make a balanced, more rational, and what do you say, reasonable decision making. This emotional awareness itself will make us understand, look through the mirages, look through the distractions, and look through the as the author says, the ego meddling. Now, when does the ego start meddling with my decisions? Is when I start looking at things more from a want perspective, and when I want something just to show off or just because somebody has, then the ego is playing off. So then we have to understand for ourselves, how do we actually counter this. So awareness, lot of awareness has been brought into this. And yes, the most important point that the author has also brought out is, today we are having a global competition, a global comparison. So somebody sitting in India, say not only the North or South India is getting a bit of a competitive picture, but we are somewhere admiring somebody who's sitting in Switzerland, and we are trying to compete with them. So it is somewhere healthy, but also there has to be a line where we understand the practical differences, and not get into the that kind of a maya where and we keep our distance and our sanity, and we be reasonable at at that end. Yeah. So this was a very very good session, and thanks for your active participation. Yeah. So is there anything else anybody wants to share?
Thank you for those in-depth insights, Maniselvi. They were always, as always, they're beautiful. Thank you for that.
So thanks, guys. And if there is nothing much to share, then we'll call it a day. Yeah. Okay. So we'll see you tomorrow with the next chapter. Yeah. And it's a
you.
surprise. Yeah. Chapter 12 is a surprise. So let's,
Yes.
yeah. Okay. So I'll just take out the summary and just then we can go. 1 minute. Yeah, so I've pasted the summary of the reading.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. I'm taking the like shares summary
Okay.
that I will share. Yeah, that I'm getting. Yeah, thank you, dear.
Okay.
I've done taking the summary, Maniselvi.
Okay.
You want to do
So,
something? Otherwise, I can
no.
end the room.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can close it.
And thank you, dear. I'm very
Thank
grateful
you.
to you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.